Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool. It helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Keeping Current with Kansas City. This is Thad Bell from, I think I just could go ahead and break out the new name now. What do you think?
Go for it.
Because Kansas City Soccer Journal.
The Kansas City Soccer Journal.
Yes, formerly of the Blue Testament. Been sometime in the next couple of days, the Blue Testament should point to the Kansas City Soccer Journal, but I'm not sure exactly when that'll happen. So we'll figure that out as we go. But with me, I have Daniel Sperry from the Kansas City Star and a multitude of other places in the past history.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing, Daniel?
You know, I'm doing good, Thad. Today was actually a beautiful day in Kansas City to be outside and at KC Current training, and actually saw some really good play today from a couple of new healthy bodies that we'll talk about. So in general, I'm in a good mood.
Healthier bodies. I'm not sure if I would call them healthy yet, but we'll get
Healthier.
there.
I mean, they're definitely healthy people.
Are
they healthy to play soccer at on Saturday? I don't know about that. We'll see.
Well, I guess if I'm going to get nitpicky, you can get nitpicky too. So that's fair. All right. Opening weekend, Kansas City went to North Carolina. Did not come back with any points.
Nope.
Didn't look great at times, but
nope.
Also probably played well enough to have come out of there with a draw.
Yeah.
But didn't.
Yep.
From my point of view, they looked much like they did a lot of last year, except they just couldn't find that goal. A lot of last year, they kind of looked the same, and then Kristen Hamilton or Elise Bennett or Haley Mace or somebody would come up with a goal and tie it up or take a lead. And they looked very similar to how they played a lot last year, especially early through the mid part, I would say.
Yeah, and I think what that team was so good at doing was getting you out in transition. And I think that formation was not set up to get you out in transition and going. And in the same way, I don't think that the personnel is ready to do the methodical buildup that I think can possibly happen when all of the personnel is healthy, a little bit more creative, doesn't a little less pace, a little bit safer with the ball, but a little bit more creativity in the runs off the ball. Last year, that team was so much built on just hitting the gas the moment they got the ball. And I think at times they maybe slowed down a little too much in the way in this aspect. And I don't think the formation lended itself to having the numbers to get forward in the speed that they wanted to. So I overall, I mean, it didn't look great. They did, as you did say, they did look a lot like points of last year, but I think they were missing the actual like quality chance generation. For the most part, this team last year was over one expected goal a game. And they probably wouldn't have been anywhere near that if they hadn't had chance in the 75th minute there that I think Michelle Cooper had that was well saved. So like there was not a lot of opportunities to be had for them goal scoring wise because they couldn't create the chances. And then I think one little bit of a lapse at the back there, it cost them too.
Really wasn't even a lapse at the back. It was a lapse at goal because that
Yeah.
shot really could have been saved. As good as AD Franch is, that's a shot that she should have saved any other day.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll also say, I think that team, and in my moment, I was not expecting, when I was watching the game, I was not expecting her to shoot that ball at the time because they've been feeding Carolyn so heavily and she was finding so much success in the space between Gabrielle Robinson and Haley Mace on the back line there, that she was getting into free space and getting in behind a lot and frustrating everybody. And I think everybody kind of, even the midfield, they all kind of sagged off the player with the ball and kind of gravitated to make sure that they couldn't find the outlet pass to Caroline. And she had a clear shooting lane for a shot that could have been saved by AD Franch for sure. I also think that shot had a fair amount of power, surprisingly, and was quite low and hard. But like you said, I think that's a save that we've come to expect AD Franch to make. And I think AD might say, I want to have that one back too. So I don't think, she's above being critical of herself in those moments. So
No.
I think that's, good goalkeepers know how to be self-critical when it's necessary. So I definitely think that's 180 we would want back. But it looked like the first week of the season, didn't it?
It did. I know we were probably going to get into this, but one of the big differences was formation. A lot of last year, they kind of played a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 or whatever you wanted to call it. There's a lot of variations that you could have put in those various numbers, but this was much more of 4-3-3.
Yep.
Bringing Del Fava and Mace back farther, making it a little harder for them to get forward as well as they did last year. Probably a little bit of the difference in them. I think when we described them about how they went forward a lot last year, pretty much on the gas immediately, it was a little bit frenetic at times. And they want to be a little more calm and patient this year as they get those calmer midfielders into play. But with Kate and Haley starting farther back, they weren't able to get forward as fast or with as much quality, I think. Yeah,
and I think also some of it too is getting used to it. Like Kate Del Fava learned how to play right back last year in a back five. Has never played back right back really in a back four. Haley Mace has a little bit, has played left back and a little bit of right back with the women's national team in a back four. But I think the same frustrations that she has, and she voiced those frustrations on Saturday, talking about how she cannot get forward as much as she likes when it's a back three. But I also think both her and Kate and even Lo kind of touched on the formation changes. Like, look, if we're going to try and play this way and try and do this year, like you also can't just abandon it after one game. You got to figure it out and try and figure it out. And then if it really comes to a point, five, maybe, and they didn't explicitly say this, but, I think the feeling is if it doesn't work after 5 or 6 games, then maybe you think about throwing it in the trash. But, I think it's a different way to start. I don't think it really worked very well on Saturday. but yeah, I think it caused a lot of problems there because that space between when Haley Mace did want to get forward, they were so easily countered by Carolyn occupying that space behind Mace and in between Gabrielle Robinson and her. And I thought Gabrielle Robinson actually had a very good game for a rookie center back having to deal with Carolyn in her first match. You can definitely see why they drafted her, but
why they kept her.
And why they kept her. They had drafted multiple defenders, and I think in practice, as you and I talked about on the last episode, and then in the game this week, you see very much so why they kept her and signed her to a contract. But yeah, I think that was the biggest weakness and the biggest way to unlock that team, especially if you're going to turn over the ball in the midfield as much as they did. It's going to lead to those types of opportunities.
So going back to how it was set up, Mace as a left back, Gabrielle Robinson left center back, Ebal right center back, DeFalva the right back, Labonta, Luetta, Kaiser across the midfield. Did I do better?
Thad. You did very good there.
Alexa Spanstra on the left, Michelle Cooper, and Mimi Larson on the right up top. I kind of think I would have actually went with Larson in the middle and Cooper to the right, but how do you think that worked up there? I mean, we know they didn't create a ton of chances, but what did you
score any goals?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good learning experience for Mimi. Because that is, I mean, they had her kind of on the left there. If there's any strength of the North Carolina Courage, it is arguably their back line. They have more experience in returners there. And Emily Fox, I know, is out there as well. So I think they have good players on that back line. And I think it's one of those of just like, okay, welcome to NWSL a little bit for all three of those players in the front. I mean, all three of those players have never played in the NWSL one match, and I think it showed. I think there's a little bit of chemistry stuff. I think out of the three, Michelle was certainly the brightest. Showed the most creativity going forward. Showed the most. She showed a lot of vision, even in some of the through balls that she tried to play. She was trying to drop deep and pick up the ball. But yeah, I think I'm curious to see how the roles and responsibilities for all those players change when you get these players like Adebina as a player who's going to be on the ball a lot in the final third and helping create and play the final ball and bounce 1-2s off of these players as they go through. I think it just looks a little different, and it'll look a lot different, and it's hard to judge them on that performance, which wasn't great. But I also just don't know if that's a setup that's going to work either.
I do think that when they get some of those more experienced midfielders in there, this is a completely different looking team.
Agreed.
We'll have to see, though. I mean, that's remains to be seen, and it'll be a while before they all are ready and fit to play.
Correct.
And also remember, we have a right back that will be coming into play in, say, a couple months, Hannah Glass, who also will change that dynamic of playing a 4-3-3 or whatever they end up playing too.
Yeah. And I mean, let's not ignore Mallory Weber either. We saw her in training today at day of recording, and she's been working really hard to get back into it, and she looks closer to playing than Hannah Glass does, just based on the workouts that are happening on the field there.
Considerably closer.
But I do think that, that's another one. She was really, really good in the Challenge Cup. And it was a shame that her injury happened when it did in the way it did. Because I thought I was very impressed with her play down that side, and her contribution on service and set piece as well was very needed. It was nice. She played a nice couple of passes out there today that is one of those where you just say, okay, that's going to be a really good player to have in the mix maybe by the end of April, kind of she's coming off an ACL injury, hasn't played a game in over a year at this point, but at that point actually will be about a year. But I think judging by the way she was moving and training this week, I don't think that an end of April return to the lineup is too far out of the question for Miss Weber.
No, she was in some of the scrimmages, the full field trainings, the drills they were running that were completely normal kind of stuff. So, and she was looking quite all right. So a lot of it is as we've gotten used to from talking to Coach Potter, to Vermees, to every other coach that has anything to do with Kansas City soccer, it feels like they have to train to find out how they're doing, get used to contact, see how they react to the training, etc. It's somewhere on their path, their journey, their life story.
Are you sick of the cliches, Thad?
No, not at all. Anyway, we did see Dabinia in full training.
Yeah,
we saw Vanessa in training.
Also looked really, really good. For what we saw, I was impressed. I have yet to see, like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I don't really 100% remember much of Vanessa DiBernardo when the Red Stars were here. And so it was nice to see, like, it's one of those that, like, seen Dabinia a ton, the national, international level, at the club level. She's an absolute star. Her highlights are out there constantly. Morgan Gautreau, we've seen her for years with the women's national team. You know what her game is. And so for me, what's the meme, I'm sorry, I was unfamiliar with your game that's been going around right now, is how I felt with Vanessa. But seeing her today, picking out passes in the midfield, hitting the switches almost to perfection with the one hops and passes into the fullbacks and switching field. I mean, it's just one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, there's some really high quality. And especially Dabinia, we were even talking about this, every single time Dabinia touches the ball, it never goes wrong. Like, it's always there is not a bad touch that's in her body, and you can see every single time she controls the ball, she knows exactly what she's doing with it at every single second when it's at her feet. And it was really, really cool to see that in person and up close today. There's
a reason that she is the second highest rated one in FIFA.
Well, that too, but FIFA can get some ratings wrong, but boy, I think they got her spot on, because it's just one of those where you see it when world-class players jump into training, either seeing it on the men's side, see it in the women's side. When those type of players jump into training, it raises the level, because they come in at a level and you're just like, oh snap, okay, this is real.
So go back to Vanessa for a second. I do remember watching her with Chicago and with oh,
aren't you, Mr. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, piss off. Anyway, she's someone who isn't necessarily going to be flashy like a Dabinia, but she's just going to raise that level, that experience. That's why I was really excited to have her on the current, because she can play the 8 to 10. I mean, she could probably play the 6 as well, but I think she's that good 8. And with some of those options they have in that midfield, they don't have to be frenetic like they were last year. They can be calmer, but it also means that they will be able to slow the play down and stop the other team better. The defense will be protected better.
Yep.
So that's all the way around going to be a plus when they do start adding those players into the lineup.
Yep.
And of course, nobody is going to say that they're going to be available for this weekend, but I would not be shocked to see one of them on the bench at least. Yeah. Specifically Dabinia.
Yeah.
Because she should be closest to fitness, because she was playing up until a month ago.
Yeah. That might be, I would be shocked if DiBernardo made the bench for this game. I could see Dabinia maybe having 10-15 minutes in her legs, maybe as a late sub. I don't see Mallory Weber on the bench at all. this week, but it's one of those where, okay, now after this game, you have a 2 weeks off because of the international break. And so we will not see them again until April 15th. And I can easily see either any of those players in the mix for that lineup in Chicago against the Red Stars, which would be kind of cool to have Vanessa maybe make a big debut against her old team in her hometown too. I mean, she's a Naperville gal, which isn't too far from Bridgeview, where the Red Stars play. So I think it'd be really cool to end up seeing that.
Yeah, that couple of weeks will be good for them to get healthier, get Dabinia back, get Vanessa back, maybe Mallory, or at least getting her closer.
Maybe Mo.
And I will say we haven't really seen her out there, so can't say what condition she's in. Did have a surprise guest come walking through our area today.
Yeah, it was great to see. I mean, I've seen an interview of Desi Scott since she's been back, but it was nice to see her out on the field in workout clothes, and she seemed very happy to be doing the same.
Yep. Yeah, she was happy to be out there. I mean, not participating in training, but doing stuff.
Yep.
To get closer. So, and then didn't really see. We saw a little bit of Kristen Hamilton just around. Also, she was doing some work inside. I believe
think most of those three had done some sort of workout in behind. Obviously, Elizabeth Ball's. Sorry, this happens. Email popped up. I should put my laptop on do not disturb so I don't get interrupted by email blurbs here. Elizabeth Ball has a hamstring injury. She probably, I don't know how long. It seems like it's on the longer end of what you would consider a hamstring injury, not season ending per se, not like Lynn Williams's hamstring injury in any way, shape, or form, but certainly one that will be I'm trying to think of a good comp, maybe for crossover fans like Logan and Denbei length. I think a couple. I wouldn't be surprised if we're on the backside of the 6 weeks like time frame, maybe. But that's just me guessing based on attempting to have conversations about it, and we both know how attempting to have conversations about injuries goes around these parts. So
yeah, that's one I didn't even attempt. Just
I would expect not at least. I'd be shocked if she was back in training ahead of the Chicago match on 4/15. That's kind of my guess. So maybe May.
Which is
it's gonna be May. Which honestly, okay, sorry. No.
Yeah, no singing.
No more singing, no more Backstreet Boys. But for real, I think maybe this wasn't one of our pre-planned talking points, but this is where maybe some of the return to the midfield that we can see from players can really help out that back line a little bit and maybe push Alex Luetta back there next to Elizabeth Ball. Or not Elizabeth Ball, next to Gabrielle Robinson. Because he wasn't comfortable enough going with the back three. Maybe he wants to change formation, but you had Weinbrenner and Addison Merrick there on the bench that can very competently play in a back three, and that option was not given. So does he trust either of those two? At least for this week, I wouldn't be surprised to see Addison Merrick back there, but I think as more players come into the fold, and depending on when Elizabeth Ball comes back, that's where the kind of Swiss Army knife of, is she a center back? Is she a six? A very Julie Ertz-esque question about Alex Luetta. That's where that versatility comes into play a little bit.
Oh man, don't bring up Julie Ertz. That'll get us like in a whole nother podcast realm. All the controversy over her lately.
We don't. Yeah, sorry, we don't. This ain't a U.S. Women's National Team pod. So we will keep our comments about roster selection and the consistency of and confusing nature of roster selection off air for now.
Yeah, we'll bring that up in another time.
Just know that the current are not one of the NWSL teams trying to get after Julie Ertz to get on their team.
You know, it was kind of funny because I know you were told that. I was very much like, just so you know, we're not after Julie Ertz.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you protest too much. I mean, that's. I don't think
Well,
they are. I
say,
believe them, but
I will say one of their players, or one of your players, one of your website mates, our friend Chad Smith, had proposed the question out there, and I think I had asked, and so maybe
that's what triggered it.
That's what triggered it, maybe.
And I actually do believe they're not after her, but
I don't know where they'd fit Julie Ertz in that midfield at this point. But
well, we didn't know where they were going to fit a lot of those players in, and the answer was they're going to injure a bunch of them so that there's not a problem fitting players in.
Oh,
all right!
Don't feed the injury theory conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's probably bad turf, or they're trying to get them current fit.
Current fit was Lowe used the term KC fit to me the other day when I was interviewing her before the season opener, and I asked, I had to chuckle because I said, Raj talk to you about sporting fit, and she said, yeah, Raj and Peter. And I was like, man, considering both of these injury reports, people in Kansas City are not going to feel too happy about those conversations, but they're not linked. It's sports people get injured.
Sometimes there's just a run of bad luck.
Well, there's a lot of bad luck going around. But yeah. Right. Speaking of bad turf, I was asked a question by a Swedish journalist today on Twitter about the practice after the picture that I sent out, the picture of practice where you can see Dabinia and Vanessa DiBernardo in it. You can see the grass obviously doesn't look great, but I think I had to do some explaining upon what happens when teams install grass that goes dormant in the winter when they're normally out of season and not training on it. And when you don't have warm weather to make the grass come back to life, it doesn't look great until the grass comes back to life because it's been dormant for so long. So
it still plays fairly well.
It played very well. There was not a whole lot of bumps and rolls at all when we were watching it. So,
all right, we only got a few more minutes left before our free Zoom runs out.
Mm-hmm.
The game against Portland, Saturday, 11:40 now, moved it up another 10 minutes. Pretty dangerous team. Obviously, they just put up 4 on Orlando last weekend. I don't know if that's as much about Portland as it is about Orlando, or a little bit of both. Probably a little bit of both.
Probably.
But Current was able to handle Sophia Smith pretty well in season last year. That was also E-Ball and Kristen Edmonds pretty much handling her.
And Addison Merrick a little bit, but she was on, because she's kind of like leftish wing side. She was going after Addison at the right center back because E-Ball was not in that game because she was suspended because of the yellow cards that she picked up in Chicago. So that back line was Loetta, Merrick, and Kristen Edmonds. And Kristen Edmonds played as the LCB in that, or no, she played as the central of the three, or on the left center back. But I know for sure Addison Merrick has been pretty exclusively the right center back in the back three. So
yes.
Anyways. Right. Sorry.
They were able to handle her, but that was, they have another addition now that they didn't have then, is Crystal Dunn.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this roster, I don't know where anyone ever sees a setback with this team, this Portland team. The idea of a new coach, sure, maybe there's a few things to work out, but this is the coach who was the assistant there last year, working with all of these players, knows how to get the best out of these players, knows what works, knows their limitations. And I mean, this is the same team, and this is a team that almost ran the table last year, and a team that is very, very, very good. So I think they get even more dangerous when they have Crystal Dunn on the field in an attacking position. She uses, the best of her abilities. So I think there's going to be a handful of problems for the Current. I think maybe they have a little bit of benefit since this game will be kicking off at 9:40 a.m. Pacific time. I'll take that 2-hour time difference. I don't know if I would want to be. It's been a long time since anyone's been asked to get up at 9:40 a.m. for like a youth soccer tournament these days. At least any of those players on the field. So might be a little bit of help, but
yes, it's not been that many years for me, but all right. It's going to be a tough game. Any predictions?
I think the Current get a little bit of a boost from the crowd. I'm sure they score a goal. I say this game ends up in a 1-1 draw like we got last time when the Thorns were here. I just think the circumstances aren't great for the Thorns in terms of timing and travel of the game and all of that. And Current will be at their. It's supposed to be a record-breaking crowd again for them, over kind of pushing the 10.5K mark is what it sounds like they're getting close to. So it's gonna be a big crowd. It's gonna boost the players, and I think it'll make it. I think they'll want to kind of do right from what they put out on the field against North Carolina. So I say a draw here. I'll just go 1-1. I don't know if there's enough in it to win it for the Current, but a draw seems like I would be happy if I was the Current. I'd be happy with a draw given the circumstances.
Yeah, draw would probably be a good result, and just keep working on getting healthier. I have a hard time seeing the Current win this game. I'd like them to. It'd be fun to shoot a couple, goals by Michelle Cooper and Mimi Larson and anybody else that's out there. But that's a pretty potent attack from Portland. And if Portland wins it by 1 goal, it's going to be a late Michelle Vasconcelos goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll go
Probably.
with.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Any last thoughts there, Mr. Sperry?
None. Good. Surprisingly, I'm talked out.
Yeah, I know. That's hard to do. All right, man. I will probably see you tomorrow. I don't know. I have a lot of stuff to do.
Yep.
I appreciate everybody listening, and I hope that we will have some more content going forward besides just Daniel and I talking. And we are out.